where we explore the luminous threads connecting us all. I'm your host, Anya, and today's guest is someone who doesn't just teach spiritual awakening, he lives it. Blaise Kennedy is a spiritual teacher whose work bridges the personal and the collective, guiding students towards deeper healing, connection, and consciousness. His approach isn't just about the self, it's about the field we co create. So get ready to expand beyond the I into the we. Welcome to the show, Blaze. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Mhm. So, you emphasize the collective field of consciousness in your work. How do you define that for someone new to the idea?
A good place to start is to think about your family. Just if you think about your life and your personality and your behavior and the way you feel about yourself, for most of us, we can recognize the impact that our family has had on our development. So, in the West, especially, there has been really strong movement towards therapy and looking at the childhood experience and recognizing the impact that that has had on our development. And the reason that our family and our childhood has an impact on our development is because our developmental process and the growth of our nervous system, the development of our emotional body and our mental body, all of this is relational by nature. We don't grow up isolated. And in fact, when human beings are isolated, their development is hugely impacted. So our nervous system is created to relate to people. When we have feelings, those feelings are to communicate with people. Everything that we do, all the actions that we take, all our motivations are the ways that we participate in the world with other people. So from this model, we can extend this a little bit and recognize that like our nervous systems are always in communication with each other, and this is true within our family, but it's also true within the world beyond. And the way that people recognize that and feel that is they begin to sink into themselves deeper, and the more that their nervous system comes to life, the more that they can feel their relating, their connection to everything fundamentally. It takes us, this kind of feeling and sinking into the body and relating to the nervous system takes us into these collective fields, which we could call the fifth dimension or the unified field or the global body, depending on how you want to phrase it. But again, the basic principle is that your nervous system is part of life, just like your computer is part of the internet. There is an internet that we access through our own nervous system. And that's a big part and focus of my work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, can you share a moment when you felt the collective shift within your community?
Well, it happens all the time. So the basic unit that I teach to run a community is I teach people the ability to send and receive energy, which means like when I have a feeling or when I have an experience, I learn that again, it's not just for me, that I'm expressing it. And on the other side are people who can receive it. This is the nature of relating and relationship and relational practice. So every time we meet as a group, what happens is one person expresses, the group receives it, and everybody is changed. Meaning, like our processes are constantly being affected, touched and affected by the experiences of others. So when we learn to do this in a group together, what you have is just person after person sharing and it affecting all the individuals in the group and the group as a whole. So the primary orientation here is the content is important, but what's even more important for me is that the content moves through all of us. And when this happens, you create a very dynamic and charged field and a clear felt sense of us. Again, when this context of us, when we actually start to feel that we're connected, when we can feel that we're here together, this also pulls energy out of us. It pulls content, it pulls experience out of our nervous system. So whereas in individual practice, the focus may be on long hours of sitting or very disciplined meditation with the idea that this will cause karma or samskara or trauma to arise. In a group, what pulls energy out of us is the field itself. We don't need so much the intense discipline of meditation. We just need to be plugged in. So when you get together a group of people who know how to do that, you get a very dynamic and rich field that changes very quickly. And then the content that arises can be pulled from deeper and deeper places and moves very efficiently through the field. So people experience transformation quite naturally, just as a product of sharing and being connected, rather than a product of having to let go of something.
Mm-hmm. I've often felt that invisible thread in group meditations, like something greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. And yeah, this can happen as well in meditation. And when I teach meditation, I help people to really focus on this this greater unit that is greater than the sum of its parts, that we meditate into that together. And yet if we use the metaphor of the internet, to me, it's a really perfect, beautiful metaphor. At this point in time, the advantage of being connected to the internet means that you have access to so much more information and capacity than you would have on your phone or computer if it was disconnected from the internet. And this is rapidly changing every day because we have built this thing together called the internet. We all have this tremendous access. There's so much that we can do. So similarly, the more that we focus on and build out these collective fields, the more benefit it is for the individual to be a part of it. And this is the foundation of my work, is knowing this and building out these collective fields so that we can all share in the benefit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So many spiritual teachings focus on personal development. Why do you believe focusing on relationship and connection is essential for true awakening?
Well, so many teachings do focus on personal development, but if you look deeply at any of them, you will realize that most of them come out of systems that emphasized deep interrelating. Whether you look at the deep structure and the pantheon in Hinduism and all the subtle structures that have been created through Hinduism or Buddhism or uh, or Christianity, like there is an underlying structure that people are plugging into. They tend to focus, I would say, especially in the West, on the personal self. But even in these ancient traditions, they are all have a subtle structure in consciousness that you plug yourself into. But that said, that doesn't mean that we work actively together. So for me, the next step is to not just plug into the system, but to work with others on the experience of relating. And I consider it part of the evolution of consciousness that we do this. Why is it so valuable? Again, my frame is that when you want to awaken, one of the primary qualities is a tremendous amount of energy is going to have to move. Again, whether you call that trauma or samskara, or you talk about your chakras opening, or you talk about light incarnating or moving through the world, so much movement is going to have to occur. And the reason we have to wake up in the first place is that movement has been blocked, that the human world and experience is quite dense, and it interferes with all these natural processes, whether it's incarnating or growing up. And so we end up being closed and asleep. So to wake up means, by necessity, a lot of energy, a lot of content, a lot of experience is going to have to move. And what's the most efficient way to do this? You can do it by yourself. People have been doing it for thousands of years. You can do it by relating to the religious or contemplative structures that you're part of. But for me, energy moves really efficiently between you and me. When I tell you what's happening for me and you receive what's happening for me, energy moves really fast, really naturally. And again, the reason I think that's true is because that's what energy is designed to do. It's designed to connect us. So instead of the individual thinking like, how do I move this energy, or how do I get rid of it, or how do I get it to open up, we just use it as it's designed to do. It's designed to communicate. That's its purpose. We just send energy through relating rather than kind of hoping it will move. So again, this is the base unit of relational practice, is that I tell you, and when I tell you and I feel with you, I'm expressing, and this is the natural movement of energy. It's to move between you and I. And we're just leveraging that uh, to support the tremendous amount of movement that's going to have to occur to allow the openness and clarity and the relaxation that are fundamental to awakening.
Yeah, definitely. So, how do we navigate relationships that challenge or trigger us? Are they part of the awakening too?
Well, they're definitely part of your life path and your awakening, absolutely. And when I talk about creating these groups have a very specific purpose, that we come together to move energy and support each other. And it requires training and skill and development. It requires capacity. And it's not likely in the world that I live that you're going to find that same amount of capacity in your ordinary life. And even more than that, most of our interactions with people aren't uh, they aren't intentional, specific to the movement of energy. We're doing stuff. I don't know, getting our kids to school or buying groceries or whatever it is that we're doing. We're very active and we're moving. So when we practice, we get this opportunity to slow down, to have a simpler focus, to really just be with the movement of energy. And so relational practice for me is a really essential tool. And yet, the rest of our life, we are still relating to people. That's what we are doing. And so, what we're looking to do is to take the skills that we develop in our practice and then apply them to our life. And there are endless opportunities to resolve conflict, to recognize disconnection or trauma in our lives and respond to it. That's within our family, within our culture. It's everywhere where there's this opportunity. So we develop the skills in practice, and then we apply them in our lives, and we become like a conduit for more energy to move through the world. I become more and more available to the movement of energy through myself and through other people. And so I bring this teaching in this higher capacity into life. And for me, this is really essential. And in terms of being triggered, finding blocks in life or having difficult experiences, life is very good at bringing those to us. And we do our best with that in our ordinary life. But again, we take that to practice. This is my idea. This is my path that I'm describing. So we're constantly moving between practicing relating, and ordinary or regular life. And the things that we can't solve in our regular life, we take to practice. The insights and the capacity we develop in practice, we take to our ordinary life. So we're always moving between these two sort of modes of relating. And in this way, I think it's very possible to continuously resolve the conflicts in our life and in our family and in our world, and bring like a fresh perspective to challenges that may seem very difficult or not have clear solutions.
It's easy to think awakening happens on a mountaintop, but the real test is often in our daily relationships.
Yeah. I mean, if that's where you want to go to a mountaintop, I would suggest that that's going to be also a very intense practice. Just sitting by yourself, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. And that the intensity of that practice will can definitely bring about profound awakening. But for most of us, our life path is actually not to move away from the world, but to move into the world, to have a career, to have children, to participate in life. So for those people who feel that that's their calling, and we want to create my intention is to create a practice that allows us to have radical transformation, even if we're not sitting on a mountaintop. And if you are sitting on a mountaintop, I mean, again, that's very intensive, but you don't have that day to day confrontation with your behavior and the way you treat other people and the way you react to other people. You don't have that same feedback mechanism. You have a different feedback mechanism. And so we're in the world, we get to really leverage the feedback that we get, again, from conflict, tension, the things that come up between us, our ability to move towards a life that feels good for us. We get to use that constant pressure and feedback for our awakening. It's a great way to have a constant uh, pressure or new direction or invitation to awaken more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, you work with trauma as a part of the healing journey. How does addressing trauma at the personal level
I didn't get that.
ripple into collective healing?
Yeah. So what personal trauma means to me is trauma is energy that has not had an opportunity to move for a number of reasons. Two primary ones is because it's overwhelming, because it can't be in relationship. So what do we do with energy that is we can't move? We store it, and we do that by contracting around it, and this freezes the energy. It gets stored in our body. So personal trauma really means any content that is stored in our body that we need to process. But once you really look at what is stored in your body, the further you go, you realize it's not just personal experiences that are stored in your body. All of life is trying to move through you. The experiences of your family and your ancestors and your world, all of these things turn to be stored in your body. And what you realize is that your nervous system is not separate. Your consciousness, your nervous system, your energy body is not actually separate from the rest of life. And as this happens, your worldview begins to change from a personal experience to a collective experience. So a natural product of resolving trauma is we become more and more aware of the fact that we are woven into the fabric of life. So this fabric of life is definitely aided when an individual resolves trauma in their body. But ultimately, when you realize that there is a collective field and you're a part of it, your efforts in life change from wanting to help yourself to wanting to help the collective. And the reason is because you realize your well being and the collective well being are tied together. No matter how much personal capacity you have, you're always going to be affected by what's happening in the world. So this model means that as people become more developed and more awake, more and more they their efforts and their capacity become aligned or expressed in support of the collective. We want to help, we want to share, we want to connect. So over time, we have individuals who become more and more available to the collective. And ultimately, what we're looking at is not just that the collective or the individual nervous system is going to wake up and I become awake. That's definitely a motivation. But there's the possibility that the entire collective field wakes up. And the transformative potential of this is extraordinary. If you think about, my personal nervous system is made out of all these parts and channels and aspects, and yet this is one body. So it is with the collective. We are all part of this collective nervous system. And if this collective nervous system were to wake up, as it is progressively doing so, the transformative potential for all of us would be so immensely radical. And so that's the vision and the direction that the developing or awakening individual starts to recognize and is supportive. And so that this happened to me, this is what I'm doing, is recognizing it's this collective sort of global body, this collective consciousness that really needs our attention and support.
Absolutely. So, have you witnessed a group or community begin to heal together as individuals did their work?
Yeah, I mean, I experience that all the time. What I'm building is I take a bunch of individuals who want to be well personally. I bring them together. I align their practices, and suddenly, as they become more capable and more well individually, we recognize that we've built a field of consciousness together, a group, a unit, a collective, an organism that has a lot of capacity. So this is the unit that I'm building. Again, you assemble individuals who want their awakening, and then together they create a collective field that has a lot of capacity. And it's just about adding more and more people and continuing to refine the capacity of the collective. You know, this is what I do every day.
That idea that healing is contagious in the best way feels so hopeful at a time when the world needs it.
Yeah, that is a very that is a very hopeful idea. Absolutely. And yes, the world needs it now, but the world has needed it for a long time. But I have in myself a quite balanced view. There are challenges now, but I think we're doing great. I think this is the best we've done, at least for a long time, and we're making tremendous progress. And the the process itself means that difficult things come up. So when you look at the conflicts and difficulties in the world, those challenges to me aren't signs that we're going backwards. What I see is more and more content is arising all the time, and more stuff is needing to move. And that's a sign to me that we're going in the right direction rather than the wrong direction. We just stay the course, just keep going.
Absolutely. So, you teach meditation, but your approach goes beyond stillness. How does meditation serve as a gateway to connecting with the collective field?
So meditation has a number of very powerful benefits. The first is that if you take time and you are intentional about being conscious regularly, you prioritize this work. I mean, there's so many things in life to be focused on and to care about. Meditating is a way of strengthening your intention and your purpose, and making awakening a priority. So regular meditation is really important in that respect. But as you sit still, again, you simplify your life. You're not trying to do a whole bunch of things at the same time. And this allows consciousness to focus on itself in all of its aspects, whether you focus on your breath or whether you focus on stillness or whether you focus on any other quality. And as you look at consciousness, you support it to do what it needs to do. So the consciousness does stuff like energy moves, light is radiant, and awareness is spacious. Those are the three fundamental qualities that I perceive. And in these three things, when you are conscious, you allow these processes to happen. Now, you may not be aware of them all or really any of them when you start, but progressively you become more and more aware. And so if you allow energy to move, it's going to move and build and clarify and make your consciousness more transparent and subtle. And progressively, you will have more and more access to collective consciousness because these fields are subtle. They're, if we think about consciousness as a spectrum from the physical world to awareness and the absolute beyond that, it's a spectrum from dense to subtle. So if you are going to relate to these things, and I'm describing like collective consciousness, you are going to have to become more subtle. So meditation, again, supports the movement of energy, supports all the functions in consciousness to move, the processes to move, and in the same time clarifies and allows you to access more subtlety. So presence, going slow, and relaxing, these are all fundamental in accessing the more subtle phenomenon that we're describing here. And I should add that that takes time. It's progressive and it takes time. And that time is greatly enhanced by meditating.
Absolutely. Sometimes sitting in silence feels overwhelming when there's so much noise inside, but perhaps that's exactly where the work begins.
Yeah, I mean, when you first start meditating, it's it's not necessarily clear what you're doing because you don't know the terrain very well. So you won't have a lot of command or facility or comfort with the process. But if you, that's why there are some pointers that people are given, especially at the beginning, that support, uh, you have an anchor, you have something that you can do that allows you to be with all the noise and the change and all the interference. But over time, what happens is that you develop capacity. You learn how to relax. You learn how to soften your perspective. You learn how to uh, be grounded. Your nervous system opens up in a way that allows you to be more stable and present. You become more connected with the subtle phenomenon. And all of these things help you to be more stable. And meditation gets easier over time, meaning not that the content necessarily gets easier, but getting lost or overwhelmed uh, is becomes harder and harder to do because you are more relaxed naturally. So there are many tools, there are many practices or anchors that help you get there, but the primary thing is that you want to get there, you're motivated, and that you practice continuously.
Absolutely. So, what a profound journey today with Blaise Kennedy. If you have ever felt like awakening was something you had to do alone, let this conversation be a gentle reminder. We are all part of something greater, something shared. Healing happens within and between us. Take a breath, feel that connection, and remember, your light is a part of the collective glow. So, until next time, stay present, stay connected.